This is a tool that could very well replace Microsoft Excel and Google Sheets. It's called GRID, and it allows you to create Excel-type formula using a single prompt. Let's dive into it. Okay, before we get started, let me tell you that GRID is much more than this AI feature I'm going to show you in a second. And so at the end of this video, I'm probably going to add 1 minute to show you around and what other features GRID has to offer. And trust me, it has a lot to offer. So for the purpose of the demo, I prepared some data I have. So these are the books I read in 2021, and this is a good example because we have the book title, we have some ratings I gave, and we have the number of pages I read. And I prepared here a few key metrics I would like the tool to help me figure out. So let's import this sheet into GRID and see how it works. I'm going to create a new document, and here I have the ability to start a GRID sheet, or I can add existing data, and then I'm going to upload from my computer. I'm going to select the books, and as you can see at the bottom, it imported the data. So one thing to note right away is that you cannot change the sheet directly in GRID, and it tells you to make changes to the original file, open your spreadsheet, and copy paste the data into the GRID sheet. So that's what I'm going to do, but this will have an impact in your workflow, and I'll explain why later in the video. All right, so the way you activate the AI Copilot in GRID is by using // and then now you can ask any questions. So here I want the second lowest rating. Rating is in column C, so that's what I'm going to ask. Second lowest rating from column C. Large CC, I'm not sure, let's say enter 10. Okay, so here it's interesting because this is not the right answer. And I like to show those examples as well, because when you look at the demo of all those AI tools, they are always perfect, right? They always work seamlessly and you get good results. Now, this is not to say that these tools are useless. They are extremely useful, but this is to say that you have to be careful every time, because with ChatGPT and those language model, you don't have the consistency that we are used to with computers. And so sometimes it can be tricky to get the actual value. Let me try again. And maybe it's possible also I didn't enter the prompt the right way, but I'm doing what a lambda person would do. So second lowest value, now I'm going to say in column C, maybe that was the problem, in column C. Let's see what it says. All right, so small, and now it gives me this value 5, and you can see the lowest value is 4, second lowest is 5 here for the good part of AWS. All right, so this was a very good example to show you that, yeah, it's still, sensitive to whatever prompt you're going to put in there. Now, let's see for this one. This is the average number of pages for a given book. So to get this one, I would say I want the average value of, and instead of saying column C, I can just click on it. So let me just click on that and say, and do enter, and he got it right. So the average number of pages for a book is 370 pages. Great. And then the number of books I read. Okay, so the way you would do it is to ask how many items are in column A. And computes, and the formula it gives is count AAA, and obviously it gives you 17 because it counts the first line as the title. So now it would be interesting to say how many items in column A, if I can write properly in column A, knowing that the first line represents the title of that column. So here we give it a bit of context as to what the data is about. And so here it's interesting because it does something a bit crazy. It does, instead of saying count A from A2 to A, which would be the right answer, it removes one more. Again, this is not a big deal, I guess, because that's just a copilot. That's not something that does the work for you. It's something that helps you figure out the formula. Now, it would be better if you could find the formula right away, but now, because it gives me that indication of count A to A, I know how to represent some data that is not the entire column, but from a certain cell. So if I enter this, we're going to have 15. So we have one more. And yeah, that's just strange. But again, this is, you could type it yourself. You could try this yourself. You would get maybe a different result. Maybe you would not put the -1. And this is due to the inconsistency of the response of the ChatGPT and the language model in general, which is, this randomness that they have to them. Now we want to do the average page I read a day. And this is a metric that I measure. I'm very interested in that. So what I could do is the sum of column let's see, D divided by the number of days in a year. Let's see if he understands that. Yeah, very good. I think that's right. It find out that, yeah, number of days in a year is 365, and it gives me an average of 16 pages a day in 2021. So that's good. You can don't have to figure everything out yourself. As I said, it's a copilot. You can just delegate a little bit of the data that you want to retrieve. Okay, so now I said earlier that there's maybe a better way to retrieve the number of books I read. I wanted to give Grid a bit more context as to what the data is about. So I prepared this context that I want to give the prompt. And this context is this. This sheet represents the book I read in 2021, with column D representing the number of pages I read for each book, and row 1 representing the titles of each column in the sheet, right? And after that, so I'm going to use this base prompt for every request I'm going to make now. So let's use this, and knowing this context, tell me how many books did I read in 2021? And let's see what kind of formula it comes with. So now it gives me a formula that's not what you would do yourself, I betcha, but that's a formula that seems to work. It gives me the number of books, which is 16, and it's totally right. So now this is interesting, because if you give it more context, and that was maybe my mistake at the beginning, is there was no context into my prompts. But we can see that if you give some context, then the prompts and the responses of the prompts are much more accurate, it seems. Now, I don't know if there's a way to give this prompt as a context for your general sheet, or if you have to repeat this context every time. I haven't found a way to do it. Maybe there is. Let me know in the comments. But I'm just gonna reuse it for all the time now. All right, so for the average pages a day that we computed earlier, we taught it how to do it, manually. We taught it to do the sum and divide it by the number of days. But it would be nice if it could figure this out by itself. So let's try. Give the context and say how many books, how many pages did I read per day? No, I didn't get it. In 2021. Okay, so yeah, here it almost got it, but it did something very weird. It did the sum of this column, which is good. That's the number of pages I read in this column D, divided by the count of D2. And if I just do equals count of D2, I suspect this to be 1. Yeah, divided by 365. So it got the 365 though. It just added this weird thing here that you can just remove. Again, it's a copilot, it's helping you. You have to make the final decision. All right, so as you can see, it's extremely useful to have these this AI copilot to find out the formulas, because sometimes you haven't used Excel or Google Sheet in a while and you forgot what the formula is about. So being able to prompt the AI copilot to give you a hint of what the formula could be without changing the context, without going to Google or changing, switching to another page is really nice. Now, keep in mind that it's not gonna find, if your formula are a little bit complicated, it's not gonna be able to figure them out, even with some context, which really helps. But overall, I think it's a tremendous feature to have, and I bet you Microsoft Excel and Google Sheet will definitely add that feature in the coming month. That's for sure. Okay, so now in terms of pricing, so you have a free option, which is what I'm using right now, which lets you use up to 3 documents. So it's a very good way to try it out like I did here and see if it could just integrate in your workflow and it could have any use. Again, Grid has much more to offer, so you need to see what the features are. The other one they have is $29 per month per user, and it allows you to up to 10 documents, which I think it's a bit low maybe for for a user. 10 documents doesn't sound like a lot, but depends maybe on the cases and how you use it. And then otherwise you have the professional, which seems to be the most value, because that's the one that is highlighted on the website, which is for $49 a month per domain. So I'm guessing you can have many users. Yeah, you can have multiple users, and each of them can have 500 docs. So definitely much more value than the Plus subscription. Now, who is this tool for? And this is hard to answer because, again, it's so much more than that. So it could be anyone that uses formula massively. And this AI copilot, and I'm focusing on the AI copilot because this channel is about AI tools, I think it's a tremendous help still, even if it couldn't figure out everything. It's just the way that you can prompt it real quick and have some ideas about the formulas. I think it's a tremendous value. Now, does it need some improvement? Absolutely yes, and I'm sure, 100% sure they're going to improve it in the next month, and as well as Excel and Google Sheet. Now, keep in mind, as I said at the beginning, that you cannot change directly the files that you imported. So it might be a problem for you, depending on your workflow, to not be able to work on your existing Excel files or Google Sheet files. But it does have this ability to import from Notion, Google Sheet, Dropbox, and all of these services, which is nice. You just have to do that manual copy paste at the end. It's probably a feature that they will improve in the future to make it a little smoother for the users. All right, time for a score. So this is a productivity tool, and the accuracy is 7 because you've seen, some of the formula, it gets them right, some of them not so much. And when it doesn't get the formula so much, then it defeats the purpose because you still have to look for that proper formula. The interface is incredible. It's a 9. Honestly, it's very, very easy to use. They did a very nice job to it. And if you look at the other features, I'm focusing on the AI Copilot here, but if you look at the other features that the tool has to offer, it's a very neat interface. The platforms is a 6 because they don't have a mobile app, they don't have neither a MacBook app. And in mobile, it's harder to use, to select and copy paste your data and to enter the prompt. You don't see that well. So it's a 6. Time saved, it's a 7. I think it's still very useful to have. And when it gets a formula, and again, when you give it a little hint, when you say, just give me the sum of this column divided by this value, this number, then it gets it perfectly right. I was just pushing the tool a little bit further, but that's probably not what it was designed for. So the ease of use is an 8. Honestly, just doing / is extremely easy to trigger the AI Copilot. Now, when you want to give some more context, I feel it could be a little bit clearer, maybe because when the context is long, you kind of lost in your formula or in your prompt. So it could be maybe a bit better there, but honestly, it's extremely easy to use. And the value is a 9 because having that AI Copilot, I think it's just terrific, and they all should have that moving forward. It's just an awesome way to use the tool. So the overall score is 46, and yeah, I think you should definitely try it out because having those formulas using a prompt is definitely the way to go. All right, so real quick, I wanted to give you a quick overview of what else is possible here, and I'm going to take an example or a template that they have on the website to show you what other features you have, and honestly, I've been amazed by it. So here you still have the data at the bottom, so that's the way to present it. And this is where we use the AI Copilot here in the data. And on top of the data, you have this presentation, and you can have any graphs representing the data. But more importantly, and this is the feature I love, you can have those sliders or drop down, and you can modify the data live. So for example, if I increase this value, then all of a sudden it computes another value on the form. And maybe if I move those slides, let's see, maybe not this one, I don't know. Yeah, these slides, it modifies the graphs real time. And I find it fantastic. So if you are in the scientific community or in marketing or any numbers that you have to present, it's a very neat way to show them, how if you increase here, it's the recurring run rate, but let's say you increase your cell numbers, and you can see maybe some impacts on some maybe other the users. And I think this is just a very neat way to present the data. So this is it for Grid. I hope you liked it. Just check it out.